Hello, my name is Nicole, and I did my behavior change project on one of my students that attends the school that I work at Monday through Friday. He is a 19-year-old boy who was diagnosed at a young age with autism and Down syndrome, and he lives with both of his parents in the city. The behavior that I chose to change was a behavior that frequently happens during school hours and sometimes at home. And this behavior is flopping during any transition or any demand that is given to him. And how I defined this during my project was any instance where my client engages in noncompliance and refusal to its transition to another activity where he places his body on the ground for longer than 60 seconds. How I measured this during my project was using duration. I looked at the time when the behavior started, and then I looked at the time when the behavior ended, and I wrote it down. I was going to use frequency as well, but then as time went on, I figured out how inaccurate that data would be, so I decided just to use duration. The design that I used during this project was an ABA design, where we took data during the first baseline and then we introduced the intervention, took some data during the intervention, and then removed the intervention, took data on that, and then again applied the intervention and took data during those days. The baseline for this project was I gave staff the direction to go about the normal day with Peter and how they would interact and work with him throughout the day. And what I saw was the staff giving him directions, would give him directions in a fast manner and not give him time to process what was being said to him. And when they gave the direction, he would say, "No, no, no," and refuse to move. And then they would give the directions again about 30 seconds later, and that's when the flop would occur. And once the flop would occur, the teacher would remind them what he was earning and how he was going to earn it. And if he still didn't respond, they would just ignore them and wait till he stood up and complied with their direction. So what I decided to use was a picture exchange communication system and used a first then visual aid schedule. And what that looks like is I have what I used here. So I used this. I showed him what first needs to happen and then what he would earn if he listened and followed the direction that was given to him. So for example, when he would first come into school, I would say, "Okay, good job coming into the classroom. First, we have movement, and then we can earn our star." And he would choose one of his favorite activities, and then we would put that on the first then schedule, as I did here. This is what I used. When we would use this, I would go over it with him, and then we would go over it together. And if he complied, I would give him immediate positive reinforcement, positive praise, saying, "Good job, nice job listening." And once he completed the task that I asked of him, he would earn whatever he chose for his break right after the activity was completed. If he did not comply, he would unfortunately not earn that star and would have to complete another activity before he would earn a star. And how IOA was collected was with 2 other staff. This was collected after the intervention was implemented. And how we did that was with a checklist of how the intervention should have happened. And then after the interventions happened, we would compare their checklist and see what steps they might have missed or what they did that wasn't on the checklist. The results that I had for this were good. During the first phase, the total minutes of flops were about 44%, 44 minutes. And during the intervention phase, they did drop. I think the lowest number at the end of all this, it was about 12 minutes after every data point was collected. And I have the graph. See, highest, then the lowest. It actually got pretty low. I would like to generalize this across all the staff that work with him, either the therapists, even the parents, the principals if they're in the classroom one day, to make sure that this behavior of him listening and the behavior of him transitioning and following a demand works with mom and dad and everybody else. And I believe this worked because we gave him positive reinforcement and time to process when a direction was given. And I think a lot of people who work with him need to know that he needs a second to understand what is being asked of him and show him the day. I think the visual aid really helped him, and I'm hoping to move forward with this using a first, then, and next. Move on to a third step. Thank you.